A cunning alpha boar had been terrorizing the local farmers. After multiple failed attempts, our hunting team was called in to solve the problem in a single day. Everything was ready: guns, equipment, and a solid hunting plan. Would we succeed and return safely? Let's follow the action. It was a cold morning in Texas, and we ventured deep into the forest, hoping to find the alpha boar. The pressure weighed heavily. It was notorious for its cunning, having escaped all traps before. Suddenly, a massive shadow moved ahead, bursting out from the brush like a whirlwind. Could I react in time? The bullet struck true. To be certain, I squeezed the trigger again, successfully ending the threat. A perfect opening shot, signaling that the showdown with the ultimate target had begun. The challenging hunt was underway. The earlier victory was just a prelude, and I knew the main target was still out there. We moved deeper into the forest. All around, rifle shots echoed, my teammates performing admirably. The villagers would be thrilled. Suddenly, rustling hooves approached. An entire herd of wild boars appeared. There they are, each one crossing an open space. I squeezed the trigger, taking them down cleanly. Amid the chaos, the nerves of steel and lightning reflexes of a seasoned hunter prevailed. While others formed a circle to herd the animals, I took a fixed ambush position in the forest, waiting for prey driven past by the dogs. They're coming! Of course, a few cunning ones escaped, but no worries. Their path led straight to Blake, my teammate lying in wait. This is how we hunt, not just with guns, but with brains, committed to protecting the villagers' lives from the marauding beasts. Blake received the alert as he caught the familiar scent nearby. Silently, he moved through the dense foliage, seeking the prey. It couldn't be far. Could this legendary sniper maintain his reputation? He fired as the target fully emerged, a bullet striking the vital spot. One shot, one kill. That's why Blake always gets the final takedown. While Blake was the final shooter, Mike served as an impenetrable defensive wall. Positioned at the only escape route, he was ready as the Boars, driven by hunting dogs, charged straight toward him. From behind, the cacophony of barking signaled the prey's approach. Here they come! If they wanted to escape, they had to go through Mike's sights first. Mike's firepower had tightened the encirclement, but the alpha beast remained elusive. In the afternoon, a radio call from the scouting team announced the alpha had been spotted. Herded down the southern slope. This was the moment we had been waiting for all day. Without hesitation, Mike and I moved through the forest to intercept it. Seeing the massive silhouette, I fired immediately, ending the legend of the unbeatable monster. We did it! Incredible! Tonight, the local farmers could finally sleep peacefully. This land, this year's crops, were safe. We loaded our spoils onto the Toyota Land Cruiser, ready to return. Imagining the villagers' grateful smiles, I felt proud of the path I had chosen. After years away, returning to my homeland was a mix of emotions. My heart sank when I saw the cassava fields. The very source of our livelihood had been devastated, as if a storm had swept through. Culprits? Wild boars. A resolve hardened in me. Order must be restored. The next morning, we, the hunters of the village, set off. Will peace ever return to this field? Join us to find out. After quickly discussing our strategy, the team took up their positions. We donned our specialized camouflage gear, laced up our boots, checked the radio signals one last time, and carefully loaded our rifles. Behind the truck, the trained hunting dogs were eager and ready to go. Everything was set for a long day of hunting. The early morning mist still clung to the trees. Our team had positioned ourselves along the hillside, forming an invisible trap, with a clear view of the open field below. Upon receiving the signal via the radio, we released the dogs into the forest below, while another team took their positions higher on the hill. The dogs would drive the boars toward us, waiting at the trap. The tension in the air was palpable. Through the radio, I heard my teammate report the direction the target was moving. Suddenly, a massive dark shape, the dominant male wild boar, charged from the edge of the forest. We waited patiently for it to come closer, then opened fire. The boar panicked and bolted up the hill, straight into my line of sight. Boom! It collapsed instantly. The first shot was a clear signal that order would be restored, no matter what. Not long after, the sounds of the dogs barking echoed from the hilltop. A few wild boars were being driven down a gentle slope in panic. This time, I was lying in wait halfway up the slope, hidden behind dense bushes near a familiar escape route boars instinctively used when attacked from above. When the lead boar entered my sights, I squeezed the trigger. The shot only made them more disoriented, causing them to instinctively turn back up the hill. "They're coming back! Get ready!" I shouted into the radio.
Geri döndüler baba, geri.
Soon, supporting fire from my teammates higher up intensified, and one by one, the wild boars fell, dropping under the precise barrage. We continued moving upward to a higher point to control the area. From the hilltop, I spotted another large dark figure moving cautiously below. This one was moving very carefully, a sign that it was an older, more experienced boar. I patiently followed its movements, calculating its trajectory. When it came into my line of sight, I fired. The shot was perfect. It dropped right there. Around me, my teammates' gunfire was relentless, cutting down each wild boar with pinpoint accuracy. By noon, the sun was getting harsh. Despite the fatigue, none of us lowered our guard. We continuously updated each other through the radio, warning of any small signs of movement. Suddenly, another wild boar appeared, standing still below us. Perhaps it had gotten separated from the group. Without hesitation, I took my shot. A clean hit. The boar was injured, but its survival instincts kicked in, and it ran for cover. I immediately notified James, who was stationed at the base of the hill, to handle the injured boar. Upon receiving the message, James took up his position and stood still, his sharp eyes scanning the designated area. And there it was, the injured boar limping along. He prepared to deliver the final blow. With calm precision, James raised his rifle and took a single definitive shot. The game was over. Our professionalism was evident in ensuring that no threat remained for the safety of the community. As the evening approached, the hunting dogs seemed to still have energy left. Their barking erupted once more, pushing yet another boar toward me. This time, it would be a quick, direct confrontation. The boar bolted, and I pursued it with perfect timing. A loud shot rang out, and I saw the target stagger, then drop, lifeless, like a puppet with its strings cut. This was the final test of my reflex, marking the perfect end to a rewarding day of hunting. In just one night, my uncle's once fertile fields were turned into rubble. The wild boars flooded in under the cover of darkness, tearing up the land and destroying months of hard work. The scent of the overturned earth, the deep imprints of their hooves, no longer marks, but a blatant challenge. Standing before the devastation, I couldn't remain silent. We entered this battle not just to protect the crops, but to preserve our faith, our meals, and the value of labor passed down through generations. At 5 a.m., my uncle and I set out toward the field invaded by these wild beasts. Armed with state-of-the-art weapons and supported by the hunting dogs, we moved deeper into the field. My eyes scanned the surroundings, quickly spotting several of them scattered across the area. I decided to advance from the edge of the field toward the center, dealing with them one by one. The figures of the boars, once hidden among the tall grass, were swiftly halted by the deadly accuracy of my shots. As we pressed on, the sounds of the hunting dogs grew louder, signaling that the massive wild boar was surrounded. Yet, it still thrashed, desperately seeking a way to escape. A perfect shot sealed its fate, and saving the field from further devastation. Without a moment's rest, the eastern side of the field signaled the appearance of a wild boar herd, seemingly retreating toward their den. My uncle and I quickly split into positions to block their escape route as efficiently as possible. I moved to a clear spot for an ambush. There they were, numerous and seemingly unaware of my presence. I focused on the largest boar in the group and took the shot. Perfect! The bullet struck its mark. But the rest of the herd, quick to react, sprinted uphill, seeking refuge. With years of experience hunting wild boars, my uncle quickly anticipated their movements and positioned himself to intercept from above. As soon as the target appeared, the sound of gunshots rang out sharply, decisively taking down the lone boar. But we hadn't expected them to be so cunning. Just as the battle was heating up, another herd suddenly charged from a different direction, catching us off guard. In the blink of an eye, they had closed in on the hillside, fast, relentless, and more dangerous than anything we'd faced before. With the full force mobilized, we moved to the position above the hillside, ready to begin an intense pursuit. After a few minutes of lying in ambush, the wild boars began to emerge, each one following the other across our sights. The first round of shots was fired. The lead boar was hit, but still tried to flee, pulling the rest of the herd forward. Unfortunately for them, this time, the situation was different. We team in place, they couldn't escape the trap that had been carefully set. A series of gunshots rang out, marking our absolute dominance, and the effectiveness of the team in a pursuit that had been meticulously planned. We continued moving to the neighboring hillside for a thorough sweep. After the recent gunfire, the wild boars were in panic, retreating deep into the thick brush. The team quickly split up into designated areas, maintaining control and watching for even the smallest movements. Suddenly, the rustling sound grew louder, each moment bringing it closer. Tension mounted as all eyes focused through the scopes. The figure of the prey emerged clearly, and a rapid sequence of shots rang out, decisive and unyielding. Each bullet flew with precision, and several of the boars dropped on the spot. With the chase now over, the tension lifted, confirming that we had regained the upper hand. As nightfall approached, we packed up our gear and headed back, feeling a sense of fulfillment. Just as it seemed the hunt had ended, fate had other plans. A large, solitary beast suddenly appeared, charging toward us. Without giving it a chance to escape, a clean, decisive shot rang out. The hunt concluded with satisfaction, not just because of the spoils, but also for the clarity, persistence, and skill to hold steady until the very last moment. With climate change and increasingly favorable habitats, the wild boar population in New South Wales has surged dramatically. It's estimated there are now over 8 million wild boars roaming the region. They've spread from mountain forests into farmlands, causing severe damage. Farmers report that a single herd can destroy an entire crop overnight. In response, we planned carefully to reduce damage and control these wild invaders. Armed with determination and thorough preparation, we left town, jumped on our vehicles, and headed straight into the wild boars' hiding grounds. Thanks to sharp instincts and the trained skills of our hunting dogs, the target was quickly picked up. Using agility and training, the dogs kept the prey locked down. Seizing this precious moment, I pulled the trigger decisively. The first shot was a success, bringing joy and confidence to the whole team and fueling our hunting spirit. The vastness of the terrain made tracking our targets tough and time-consuming. We kept moving across open areas on our Yamaha Viking, eyes peeled for any signs. Soon enough, a dark shadow revealed itself. Adjusting the scope and range, shots rang out one after another, each bullet hitting its mark and bringing down the beast instantly. Without hesitation, we continued sweeping the area before the boars could react. Minutes later, the The sharp crack of gunfire echoed from different corners. The zone quickly fell under our control. Deeper inside, we stumbled upon a herd moving through tall grass. Taking careful aim, I squeezed the trigger without hesitation. One shot after another found their marks, cutting off all escape routes. No matter how quick they were, they couldn't outmatch our coordinated and precise teamwork. There was no chance for these destructive invaders. When word came of wild boars spotted to the south, Thomas was dispatched immediately. On his ATV, he sped through the terrain, weaving like a pro dancer, closing in fast on the prey. At perfect range, the bullet flew like destiny, leaving the beast motionless. During the fight, one boar broke out of sight and darted left. Thomas called it in. Without hesitation, I raced over, speeding like the wind to the designated spot. But this one was tricky, dodging and weaving slyly. It took a few minutes to nail down its path. When the moment was right, I lined up and squeezed the trigger. The sharp crack of the shot echoed like a final verdict. A well-earned victory, born of patience, precision, and perfect timing. As evening shadows fell and tension filled the air, everything seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the final result. Suddenly, a dark figure slipped in and out of view, a last challenge. Then, the decisive gunshot rang out, sharp and clear, sealing the success of the entire hunt. The team packed up, returning to the village with today's hard-earned trophies, proud to have protected the crops and preserved peace on this land. Winter had descended upon Schwarzwald, its snow blanketing the forest and stretching over the fields surrounding the village of Hinterdorf. Beneath the thick layer of snow lay the silent tracks of the beasts. The wild boars had stopped merely raiding the grain. Now they were attacking livestock, even threatening lone wanderers in the woods. The villagers spoke of an unusual pack, led by Der Schwarze Eber, the Black Boar, a massive leader with dark tusks. Unable to stand by any longer, we, the hunters, decided to take action. Through ice and darkness, we set out. In the biting cold, deep within the forest, the hunt began. We pushed deeper into Schwarzwald, where the thick snow couldn't erase the tracks left behind by the creatures that had passed before us. From the brush ahead, a dark figure suddenly burst forth. We knew instantly, it was the leader. It hadn't noticed us lying in wait nearby. The sound echoed, and the beast froze for a moment before slowly collapsing into the white snow. The hunt had started well, but we all knew its pack was still somewhere in the forest. Our mission was far from over. We paused briefly to catch our breath when another shadow shot out from the thicket. It was a full-grown boar, its speed sending snow flying in a cloud behind it. It hesitated for a split second, cautious. It tried to change course, but it was too late. I raised my rifle, aimed quickly but steadily, then squeezed the trigger. The bullet flew, ending the moment before it could turn dangerous. A brief instant, but one where mistakes weren't allowed. In the forest, sometimes just a single second makes the difference between being the hunter and the hunted. The peace didn't last long. The snow beneath my feet trembled. From behind the white-coated trees, two dark figures shot out like arrows from a bowstring. I had split from the team earlier to take a detour along the eastern slope, and this time, I was completely alone. Without hesitation, I raised my rifle, adjusted quickly, and lined up a shot as the two boars sprinted past. The crack of the shots rang through the deep woods. A few targets were quickly dispatched, with no wasted movement. The biting cold didn't slow my heartbeat. In these woods, whether alone or together, the hunter never retreats. Schwarzwald is not just a hunting ground, it is a domain, a home, where we vow to protect against the silent predators lurking in the shadows. If you enjoyed this clutch, drop us a like. As I trudged through the snow-covered forest, a signal from Mark came through. A solitary target was moving near the eastern slope. I immediately changed course, found a high vantage point, and controlled my breathing. A few moments later, the silhouette of the creature appeared against the white expanse. I steadied my aim and squeezed the trigger. The shot was sharp, clear, and brief. The target collapsed, motionless. Late afternoon, a snowstorm arrived, whiteout conditions blurring our sight. Just as it seemed the day's hunt was over, a large shadow dashed across the trail. I caught a glimpse of it, its chest heaving. I couldn't let it go further. I raised my rifle, fired several quick shots. The sound echoed in a cold wind. The beast halted, veered off course, and disappeared into the depths of the forest. A brief encounter, but just enough to prevent a disaster. The snow covered the hillside, signaling the end of our wild boar chase. The team began packing up to head back. As I always did, I took one last careful look around. A boar suddenly charged up the trail. I reacted swiftly, waiting for the perfect moment as it passed the rock outcrop. Then, I pulled the trigger. Boom! Dead on. The danger was stopped before it could escalate. first snowflakes started falling as my family returned home for the holiday break. But the moment we arrived, everyone's face darkened. We couldn't believe what we saw. Wild hogs had left their marks everywhere, wreaking havoc. How could we just stand by? That very night, a bold decision was made. We would hunt down every last hog. This trip was full of challenges. What would be the final outcome? Come along and watch. Before dawn broke, we were already deep in the forest, tracking devices activated, eyes scanning every direction, hunting for our targets. With decades of experience, it didn't take long to find them. Dogs barked loudly, a sign they had driven the prey into the right spot. Suddenly, a massive dark shape charged out of the bushes. I quickly adjusted my scope. The gunshot cracked. The target dropped before it could reach me. But it wasn't completely down yet. Seizing the moment, I squeezed the trigger again. This significant threat was neutralized, a sharp opening to what promised to be a challenging day of hunting. As the snow began to fall, movement and visibility improved. From the top of a hill, I scanned the terrain. Then, the target appeared. Holding my breath, I tracked its path. The barrel was locked on. Waiting for it to step into an open shot, I pulled the trigger. The shot echoed. The marauder's life ended there. Without the aid of a scope at that distance, a clean shot like this would have been almost impossible. On the other side, Jack was lining up impressive long-range shots. Against the white snowy background, targets moved unknowingly as he patiently waited in ambush. With sharp skills and quick thinking, every target fell with a single precise shot. The gunfire spooked the wild hogs. From the high hillside, I watched shadows desperately trying to flee into the deep forest. But once they're in sight, running is futile. Gun ready, I anticipated their route. Squeezing the trigger, a large shadow collapsed in the snow. I breathed a sigh of relief. If it had escaped, it would have caused more damage. Nearby, my teammate was quickly taking down other targets. The biting wind grew stronger as temperatures dropped. To conserve energy, we moved to lower slopes. Guided by the dog's barks, we quickly pinpointed the prey's location. Eyes peeled toward the sound, palms sweating on the rifle grip. A dark shape appeared, slowly moving through the snowy field. A sharp shot rang out, taking down the hog instantly. Others were controlled soon after. In the afternoon, after receiving word of new targets, our team hurried to the snow-covered hillside. The deep snow worked in our favor, making it easier to track and hunt these pests. At that moment, a dark figure appeared. Without hesitation, fire! Headshots! The bullet found its mark, bringing the target down immediately. As the sun set, exhaustion was setting in for all of us, but the hogs seemed relentless. Before me, a long line of wild hogs appeared in large numbers. How could we let them run free? Locking onto the first target, I squeezed the trigger. The bullet flew, dropping one shadowed beast. The rest scattered into the night. The message reached Jack swiftly. He took position, intercepting the hog's path. Soon, the target appeared. With a decisive shot, he ended today's threat.